And I don't see any real good seep-throughs to show you, so let me try and create one. So there's a little thicker area. Usually the wider areas of solder are where you're going to get seep-throughs. So I'm going to try and create one here by just letting the iron sit there a little longer. Maybe use the side of my iron. Still not much on. Oops. Might still be hot. I just don't know how to play long enough in one area, I guess. Let's add some more solder. Let's add too much solder and see if I can go through. I don't want to play too long because I could risk cracking the glass too. Let's give that a second to. It solidifies pretty quickly. So it's a little worse, but not much. But generally it'll overhang the glass. And you have to do your same technique where there's a lot of excess, you drag it off to the side. This doesn't have too much, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so let's just keep soldering and solder this side, and then I'll show you how to clean it up. Wipe my iron. Only wipe that iron once on each side. Not 3 or 4 times, it cools the iron. So you see, sometimes I just add solder to the front to get it going. But then when I start adding solder, the tip of the solder is hitting the side of the iron. Okay? And once I get going, I do it on the side so I can watch the bead. Because if you keep adding solder to the front side of the iron, then you can't watch your bead. You can't really see it. So really, you should. This will probably take you about 2 hours to solder, versus my half hour, maybe even less than that. With all the talking I'm doing. More flux. You can never have too much flux either. So if you feel like you're getting too many bubbles, you can also turn your iron down and solder a little slower. There's a bubble right there, another one. I'm going to back up and try and get those. Okay, when I back up, straighten the iron so you don't get divots. When you try and fix something and you go in at an angle, you get a divot. So that's why when you fix something, you want to start straight up and end straight up. Start or stop in a joint. I'm just repeating these things because the more you hear it, the more you'll remember it. You can stop, if you want, you can stop or start in a joint. It's just going to be more work. Okay. Okay, fix the bushes. This is a T. I'll just come straight off the end. Go into that joint to make it look a little smoother there. No, I don't like that joint, so I'll go back and liquefy everything together. Smell it, the fumes are coming right at me. Again, some bubbles there, so I'll come in with my iron really straight and try and go over these bubbles. If you have a wide iron tip, you're going to want to, you have bubbles, instead of centering the iron tip over the joint, center it only on one corner of the tip. So I put that one corner on the joint to get rid of bubbles. That also helps. See some foil. If you don't cover all the foil, then that foil does turn green. Copper corrodes into green. I see a bubble there. I'm going to come back and get it. Off to the side in my L. Flux brush pieces in there. There we go. Okay, wipe it on one iron once on each side, touch down, add solder. Watch the bead, the bead, the bead, the bead is so important. Okay, whoops. See, I like to run really hot so I can go faster, but sometimes I get these little problems. Okay, so let me just go, again, let's go over too much solder in a joint one more time. So watch me do that. So I'll put too much in here on purpose. This is usually what happens with beginners, is something like that. Or worse. What can I say? It happens. We're all beginners at some point. So I'm not going to start with the tip of the iron in the center of that blob. I'm going to start on the outside of the blob. And I'm going to use the side of the iron to reheat it. And I want to start where the shape, oh, I'm just too late now. But this kind of makes a Y this way. This is the top of the Y. This is the bottom. If there's no top or bottom, you can start just about anywhere. So now I'm always going to try and end in the tail, down this way, the tail, and off to the side of my L, and you can see the excess comes out. And then in the end, what I like to do once I get it all out is I liquefy everything in that joint. I go back and forth so it all looks even, and then I come out and off to the side. Okay. And that stick stuck. So we'll go start in front of that glob, go through it, back and forth, off to the side. Okay. So now the other thing we need to do is make sure all the intersecting joints on the edge are relatively flat for the framing you're going to put on, okay, for the metal frame. Because the frame is going to hang over about 3/16 of an inch, so it's going to hang over maybe this far in. And if the solder bubbles up too much and bubbles on both sides, then you can't get the frame over it. So you can reflux these, and you can go through and use your tack soldering technique. So go back to holding the iron over the top so the iron tip is flat. Again, I'm going to wipe it. And I'm going to go about that 1/4 inch in and pull it out. And you can see it gets real flat. Okay. Now if you get extra solder off, I'll show you solder off the edge in a minute. Let me flatten all of these. You're going to do this on both sides. So I can shake the iron, get rid of that excess. And this may pull some solder off to the side, and then you're going to have to clean up the side. So let's go do the same on the other side. Now it's a little stronger. You notice I can be pretty crazy with it, flipping it, and that's just this design. I think it's sitting on some solder here. And I'm soldering on a soldering mat. It's made by Hako. You can also solder on newspaper. If newspaper's not as common anymore, you can buy butcher block paper and solder on that. This is good. This doesn't burn, and then it cleans off really easily. Where was I? I was going to clean up all the edges. Make sure they're all flat. This one has a lot on it. Okay, so now you have to watch out also for extra solder on the edge. You can get a good picture of that. There's some up here. This one's really obvious up here. So you're going to want to let gravity pull that off. So wipe my iron. I'm going to use the side of the iron, not the tip, the side. And I'm going to just go across it, and gravity will pull it off onto the table. Make sure it doesn't fall onto you and burn you. So I'll go around and check for any of those. You might have a few more than I do, because you're going to be like, you're going to solder right off the edge. You're just going to be so tempted and so excited. Just going to go right off the edge. So anything can be cleaned up. Here's another good one. This is, let's kind of see that one. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So, and then the other thing you want to do is from the front to the back. You know, you soldered the back, then you could get seep-throughs again to the front. So, check both sides. Check for any seep-throughs. Like this, I got some funky here that I got to clean up in here. And I see one seep-through. That's probably where I was playing so much. So over here, this is a seep-through onto the second side right here. So again, I'll start in front of that with a straight iron, go back and forth and off to the side. Okay, the rest looks pretty good. A little lumpy here, but I think I'll clean that up when I frame it. There's a bubble there. So I'll start outside of the joint, work into the joint, and back out and off to the side. Again, if it's not even, I might have to go through them all, come out in every direction and fix it. Okay. So get the solder off, and now I need to clean it. So, all important cleaning. Let's move this out of the way. Some things out of the way. So, it's really important to neutralize the flux, because the flux causes the solder to corrode, and you get what's called white crud. So I kind of have a two-step method. The first is Windex, and I'm going to spray it heavily with Windex, and I'm going to clean it off with paper towels. And this is going to neutralize the flux. Okay. And I'll do it a second time. That makes sure to get spots. If I missed spraying it with Windex, that gives me a second chance to get those spots. Okay. Sure it's pretty dry. Now the problem with the Windex, this is original Windex, it's ammonia based. That's why it works so well on the flux. The problem with the Windex, it's also corrosive to the solder and can cause white crud. So now we need to neutralize the Windex. So we're going to use 91% isopropyl alcohol. 70% rubbing alcohol does not work. You need to use 91% or better. So you still can get 99.9% during COVID. It's just hard right now to get this 91%. So you can use that, mainly because they're using the 91% for all those hand sanitizers. So now I'm going to put this on a cotton ball, and I'm going to make sure I get the solder really good, but I'm also going to clean the glass. So I got enough alcohol on this cotton ball to do the whole thing. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it and do the other side. Now I want to do it on a clean surface, so I'll just take this out of the way. I want to flip it onto a Windexy, fluxy surface. And I'll clean this side. So Windex and then alcohol. It's in my patina directions, the order. A lot of people forget and ask me. If you do it the other way, you're going to get white crud. Okay, now we're going to alcohol this. 91% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. Okay. Now at this point I could patina, and I could or I can clean it with finishing compound, okay? But we are going to patina this, so I'm going to show you how to do the finishing compound later after we patina. So, but the next step is actually going to put on the frame and then we'll patina. So that's it for this soldering video. Call me with any questions.